Where it's still early, but lawmakers are already introducing some legislation that were hot button topics over the last year. Things like public lands and, you guessed it, masks are back once again. Starting out in the Senate State Affairs Committee, Senator Ben Adams introduced his proposed constitutional amendment that aims at protecting federal land. Just like he told us last summer, if you remember, last year, Utah lawmaker Mike Lee tried to write into Trump's big, beautiful bill the permission to sell off millions of acres of federal land. That section of the bill did not make it to Trump's desk in the end, but it did spark debate across the country, especially in the West, where public lands are essential to recreation, businesses, and people's lives. Well, last summer, again, I caught up with Senator Adams. He told me he had planned to bring something like this to the table even before Lee's proposed legislation.
The idea of selling it off is a non-starter, and that's exactly what I heard during the Mike Lee proposal was, hell no. If I wasn't motivated to bring this forward before then, it really kicked me into high gear.
Now, the amendment would give Idaho the option, if it wanted to sell public lands, but wouldn't be forced to do so. Adams previously told us that it would be monitored by the Land Board. Currently, there is a system in place that if the land isn't making the state money, they have the option to sell it and put it into the stock market. But through this trust, it wouldn't exist, meaning there's no incentive to sell. In today's hearing, Adams says he talked with stakeholders and people across the state for feedback on how to fine-tune this amendment.
The beauty of this is it didn't lose the heart of this amendment. We cleaned it up. We made it work. This constitutional amendment, fittingly, is for the benefit of the public, because the public land is theirs. It belongs to them.
Now, this is on its way for printing, so we will see a hearing on that. Now to the House Rules Committee, where lawmakers are proposed enhancing sentencing for people who commit a crime or attempt to commit one while wearing a mask. Representative Don Hall introduced the bill ahead of public testimony, where he said prosecutors could use the enhancement at their discretion, allowing up to an additional year of prison time and an additional $2,500 fine. Now, critics and some lawmakers who voted no are worried this bill is too vague when it comes to people wearing a mask and what kind of mask that they're wearing.
My concern is the breadth and the vagueness of how mask is defined and whether it could be applied unevenly or even weaponized, intentionally or not, against peaceful civilians exercising their freedom of conscience and peaceful assembly.
Why do you think it's okay to leave out the language requiring someone to have covered their face with the intention to avoid detection? Because that's no different than using the cover of darkness to avoid detection, to thwart apprehension.
Some members of local law enforcement showed up in support of the bill, hoping it shows that people can't hide from the consequences.
When people are committing crimes and they're using some kind of covering to disguise who they are, they're doing that purposely to make it harder for law enforcement to identify them and hold them accountable for the crimes. This bill is simply just adding an enhancement to the sentencing to help discourage that behavior.
Now, it was tight, but the ayes had it, and now the bill moves to the House floor for a hearing.